Hello backpackers, this is Juan from Juan Backpacks. I'm here today to do a trail tested gear review of the Outdoor Vitals Ventus Hoodie. I picked up the Ventus Hoodie in their first round of the Kickstarter, so I was like in the first go, in the first batch of these Ventus hoodies. I got that and I've been using it ever since across many different situations. And I want to let you know a little bit about my experience with the Ventus hoodie. First, let's talk a little bit about the specs. I have another video on my YouTube channel that goes over kind of a first look of the Ventus hoodie, and it does have a lot more specs in it, but I just want to kind of hit the highlights right now and then go on to how I used it and what I've used it for, and maybe my recommendations for what the use cases are for this piece of equipment. So let's go ahead and do that right now. Yeah. So the Ventus hoodie, athletic cut. This is a medium. A little bit hard to squeeze into through the bottom, right? But I would say I wouldn't change a thing because once it's on, nice and loose. I got wide shoulders. I got really wide shoulders, and it's perfectly fine. It's just a little bit hard for me because my wider shoulders to squeeze into the bottom and up through. But it's once it's on, it's perfectly fine. It weighs 7 ounces. My medium weighs 7 ounces, so it's definitely an ultralight piece of gear. The quarter zip in the front is, I think, just the right length to allow you to have good insulation across your torso to keep you warm, which is what it's supposed to do, but enough to vent. In my experience, the venting is just fine with the zipper the way it is. The hood is a great design. It's got elastic around it, so there's no need for pull strings to increase weight and just a bunch of complex things you don't need. It's nice and tight around your face and around your head so you don't get a lot of gapping where the wind can get in and so forth. And it is insulated as well. And so it even works without the hat on. So that is a good thing too. It stays on your head without the hat on too. So the hood is in my opinion, right on point. The under armpits here, you've got no insulation and a perforated piece of material to basically expel excess heat that you don't need. I really like that. And right now I'm in the house and it is hot in this thing. I'll tell you that right now. It's well insulated for the weight for sure. But this is helping out definitely. When I do this, it's making me cool down. It's definitely making me cool down. Inside the front here, there is a mesh pocket. I've actually enjoyed this a lot more than I thought. You can pack the Ventus hoodie away into the mesh pocket, but also I use it in the wintertime to put my water filter in here so it won't freeze up. And when I wear this, when it's really cold in the winter, when I wear this to sleep in, I'll put it in here too. That way, again, it keeps my water filter from freezing up. Otherwise, the insulation here is synthetic, and so not as affected by water, which is a-okay with me, especially in the wintertime. It's also done in sheets. What that means is it's not gonna bunch up in certain areas. It stays put where it's supposed to be. And I've not had it slide around at all. And again, I've used this for several months and it hasn't slid around on me. And that really keeps you from getting cold spots, right? Cold spots. So overall, the design is really great. Overall, the performance is excellent. The weave on the outside is really tight. It's not a windbreaker, but what I found is, when I've used it for different outdoor pursuits, it does cut wind down a lot better than some of the merino wool hoodies. They're kind of porous, and so you might use those as a mid layer, and when the wind blows, you can definitely feel the wind coming through it. This kind of cuts the wind, and I really like that. The outside also is a little bit water repellent. And it's definitely not waterproof, but it's definitely water repellent. And that has come in handy in light sprinkles when I've used it outside and also in the snow. I've had snow laying on this and on the hood and for extended period of time while I'm hiking during the day. And even though it melts off a little bit, the snow's melting off a bit, I've never had that snow penetrate through, the wetness penetrate through to make me cold using the Ventus hoodie. So overall design and specs really on point and have worked really well for me. I've used the Ventus hoodie since I got it in the first round of Kickstarter across a variety of outdoor pursuits. I've used it for fly fishing in the winter here in the Northeast. I've used it for backpacking down to 20 degrees. I've used it for running under 35 degrees, and I've used it just to work outside. I've tried to wear this across as many different scenarios that I could to try to get a feel for its performance. And I will tell you, it's really shined. I almost honestly hate to say that because I always want to find some things wrong with a piece of gear, and I don't have a problem with buying a piece of gear and then kicking it out of my kit because it's just not doing what I anticipated it would. And the Ventus hoodie is definitely doing what I anticipated it would and a little bit more. So let's talk about some of the details of my use. Well, I've backpacked in it down to 20 degrees as an outer layer. I think that's a great use case for this, an outer layer, an outer active layer in the winter time. Again, 20 degrees, perfectly fine. I actually had to vent vent the hoodie using the zipper because I was even getting too warm when I was backpacking in those colder temperatures. I've used it again in winter in 20-degree weather. I haven't used it below that, but 20-degree weather, use it down to 20 degrees as a mid layer underneath my puffy when I'm at camp. So that's another great use for it. I found that, zip it up, put the hood up, put my puffy on, and I'm good to go. Sitting around camp, talking, cooking my meal, snow coming down on me, I'm still feeling good and warm and nice and toasty. So it works great for that. I've used it for running, as I mentioned earlier. In running, it's got to be really cold to use it for running. It's definitely got to be below about 35 degrees, I found, for me personally, because otherwise you're going to sweat way too much wearing it and you're better off wearing a different piece of gear. So I have used it in really extreme cold conditions when I'm running. Again, when I'm running more, I guess that would equate to really more super active outdoor pursuits, right? You do have to have it really cold. And the nice thing about it, though, when it's that cold and the fact that it's got a tighter weave, it's cutting a little bit of wind. And so you got the insulation plus the wind cutting of the outer shell. And that's really nice to have. I can see this also, the Outdoor Ventus hoodie, also being used as a an outer layer, like you would use a puffy in 3 seasons. I could see, I've used it in like sedentary mode, like fishing where I'm standing around into the upper 30s. And I think it works pretty good with like, a merino wool underlayer. And even when I was hiking with it in the winter, like down to 20 degrees, literally I had on merino wool base layer and then this on top, and that's it. When I was in at camp sitting around, I had merino wool base layer. This is my mid layer, my warmth layer, and then my puffy is my outer layer, and it was working really well. So it can work. And then that's me. That's my body, working like that, and it may not work that well for you. So you've got to play around with what the tolerances are for you with this piece of gear. But I found the tolerances are pretty nice in terms of my use of it. So again, just to summarize, great active layer for winter, outer active layer, a great mid layer, warmth layer in winter used with a puffy over top. And then also, I think it would be a great outer layer in normal 3-season conditions that could take the place of a bigger puffy, a bigger, heavier puffy. And I think that would work well. Let's talk a little bit about like downsides of it. Really, I gotta be honest with you, I've mentally dug through this and tried to figure out like a downside. I think as long as you're using it within the parameters of the design, I think you're good. If you expect it to be waterproof, it's not going to be waterproof, right? Some folks I've seen have complained about how tight it was to get into because the zipper here doesn't go down farther, and that would leave more room to squeeze up into it. I say squeeze up into to get up into the garment. I don't know if that's the way to go. I wouldn't do that because, yeah, it's a little bit of a tight fit for me, especially with my wide shoulders, but I have wide shoulders. So it's, for most folks, it's probably not going to be a huge deal. I don't know that I'd really sacrifice this insulation, the continuous insulation in my midsection here for a little bit longer zipper. I just don't think it would be worth it. And then you get a weight trade-off too on that as well. So really there's no downside that I can find that's glaring that that I would say you really gotta change that. There's one weird thing that I saw. They've got this reflective material on the outside here. There's like a little stripe here. You can see that's reflective material right there. I'm not sure why you put it on there, but maybe there's a reason. Maybe they anticipated people would use this to run in, which I did, right? And you run in the evening, and maybe it's better if cars see that reflective glare. So I'm not really sure why that was put in there. It seems like an extra thing that maybe doesn't necessarily need to be there. I like the mesh pocket here. Maybe there's a use for another mesh pocket on the other side, but then you add more thread, more weight, more complexity to the garment, and probably a little bit more cost. And I don't know that that cost and complexity is worth the trade-off for that, because I'm not like, oh, I need lots of pockets. I got a backpack, right? I'm gonna use that. So that is my review of the Ventus hoodie. If you have an experience with the Ventus hoodie, please post up below. Good, bad, or indifferent. If I missed something that I didn't notice that was a downside or whatever, there's even more upside to it. There are more uses for it that you found. Definitely, post up in the comments below. So until next time, backpackers, get out there and do some backpacking outside. Stop watching YouTube videos. Get out there and do some hiking, and I will see you on the next video.